morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order and excuse our chairman. For the meantime, he should join us shortly, and we should be joined by Supervisor Pancrazi telephonically. Lynn, do we have you?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, welcome, Lynn. Sorry you're not feeling very well.
I'm going to put you on mute, okay, till you need me.
Thank you, Lynn. We'll ask Supervisor Simmons to lead us in the pledge.
Everybody join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor Simmons. We go to call to the public. Call to the public is held for public benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and decision at a future date. Public comments may be made in person or submitted by email. The email form of public comment will be accepted until 8 p.m. the morning of the meeting. All public comments will be read aloud during the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting that starts at 9 a.m. Desiree, do we have any emails? We do not. Okay, thank you very much. We have 3 people who have filled out forms. Jay, and I apologize, Dierdek? Yes, sir?
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, just reminding to our speakers that the device on the podium that indicates how much time you have is not working properly. Speakers are allowed 3 minutes. There is an alarm here. Once that sounds, if you don't hear it, I'll remind you that the 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
Jay, would you state your name and your address?
My name is Jay Meyerdirk. I'm at 12540 South Colina Avenue in Yuma, Arizona. I'm scheduled to speak at one of the agenda items, not in the open.
Okay, would you like to wait till then?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sheriff David Hathaway is visiting us from Santa Cruz County.
Good morning, Vice Chair. My name is David Hathaway. I'm the elected sheriff of Santa Cruz County. Thank you for allowing me to sit in on your meeting and just kind of see a little bit about how other county board of supervisors conduct their business. That's my purpose for being here. Yuma has a sentimental place in my heart. I worked here in a federal career here and in the Imperial Valley many years ago in the 1980s, so I always enjoy visiting Yuma. But thank you so much. I'm a relatively new sheriff. I'm replacing the longest-serving sheriff in Arizona, Antonio Estrada, in the county of Santa Cruz. And it's just my privilege to be here. And thank you very much for tolerating me, just kind of sitting in and learning how you guys do things. Entonces, que Dios les bendiga a todos ustedes. Te deseo un feliz año nuevo también. Thank you very much.
Hey, Sheriff, hopefully we live up to your expectations.
I don't know about that.
I know. Yeah, I know.
It'll be tough.
Gene, do you wish to speak during the item? Or would you like to speak now? Okay. All right, thank you very much. Presentations, proclamations, and appointment. Board members, during this segment of the agenda, board members may discuss the presentations and proclamations and may announce appointments to the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission and the Yuma County Board of Adjustment. No legal actions will be taken. Do we have any appointments?
I think I need to make an appointment, correct, at this time for the team, the
Benefits Trust.
The benefits trust.
We have an agenda item
Oh, it is.
on the consent calendar, item number 8.
All right.
Do we
Yeah.
have it?
Okay, I'll do it during that time.
Okay. No, nothing else?
No.
Okay. And we will have a presentation now from the Yuma County Quarterly Safety Excellence Award by our illustrious, esteemed Administrator Ian McGahey.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Ian McGahey, County Administrator. Safety is a priority for Yuma County. We strive to ensure that Yuma County employees and the public have a safe, secure, and healthful place in which to work. The success of Yuma County and Superior Court is the direct result of the hard work and innovation of our valued employees each and every day. The Safety Excellence Award recognizes county employees who consistently promote safety in the workplace. Any employee can nominate another employee for the Safety Excellence Award. All nominees are screened for eligibility, and the committee selects the winner. Nominees are recognized in the UCount newsletter. They receive a certificate of achievement, a challenge coin, a safety pen, and Arctic mug. The winner of the Safety Excellence Award receives the Arctic U-Safe tumbler and a check for $100. All nominees will be automatically submitted for the annual Safety Award of $250. I'll now hand it over to Safety Compliance Supervisor Martin Espinoza to introduce this quarter's nominees. Martin?
Thank you, Ann. Good morning, Vice Chairman, members of the board. I'm pleased to recognize all the Safety Excellence nominees for the fourth quarter of 2022 and announce the winner. Today, we will be recognizing 5 employees that were nominated from the months of October through December 2022. I would also like to thank and take the time to recognize the individuals that nominated the 5 nominees in the fourth quarter. Thank you, Miguel Sanchez from Public Defender's Office, Mindy Scott from DDS, Martha Carreno from Treasurer's Office, and Ashley Jones from the Library District. The Yuma County Safety Division thanks you for your nomination, and it's the little things that make the biggest impacts in our safety culture. Now, it's time to present the nominees. I would like for each employee to come forward next to the podium when your name is called to be recognized as a Safety Excellence nominee. First up is Felicia Vidal. Felicia Vidal works for the Public Defender as a lead legal secretary. Felicia has been in this role for 1 year and with the county for 5 years. Felicia has made it a priority to keep everyone safe and injury-free for all of her coworkers. Felicia monitors high traffic area for safety concerns and hazards throughout their building. Felicia keeps the medicine cabinet stocked with first aid supplies and constantly updates staff in the office with the latest safety-related training. Miguel Sanchez quoted, "It's Felicia's constant reminders and safety-oriented mindset that gives our office peace of mind when it comes to our protection and well-being." Thank you, Felicia. Our next nominee, Javier Coronado. Javier Coronado works for Department Development Services as a Combination Inspector 1. Javier has been in this role for 7 years and for the county for 7 years. On December 6, 2022, Javier was conducting a residential building inspection and witnessed a fellow citizen lose their balance. The citizen fell backwards and struck their head on concrete pavers, which caused a significant head injury. Without hesitation, Javier ran to assist the citizen and called 911. During this time, Javier performed life-saving efforts on the citizen by applying direct pressure to their head until medical personnel arrived. Javier's first aid actions controlled the citizen's bleeding and prevented hypovolemic shock. Thank you, Javier, for performing the heroic act of first aid to save human life. Thank you, Javier. Our next safety nominee, Juana Willen. Juana Willen works for the Treasurer's Office as a Treasury Compliance Manager. Juana has been in this role for 2 years and with the county for 25 plus years. On one occasion, Juana noticed an employee showing symptoms of illness and signs of fainting. Juana took action to ensure the safety and to prevent the employee from falling. The employee was taken to the hospital, and Juana stayed with the employee until their family arrived. Juana also stays alert when employees work at the front desk and are dealing with irate customers. Juana takes initiative to assist employees with irate customers in order to keep employees safe and to de-escalate situations. Juana consistently encourages other employees to look out for one another, health and safety. Thank you, Juana. Next nominee, Sylvester Curiel. Sylvester works for the library as an IT manager. Sylvester has been in this role for 1 year and has been with the county for 20 years. During the absence of the library safety officer, Sylvester took initiative by updating the safety data sheets and identified cost-effective security cameras to install at the libraries. This was important during election time to ensure the ballot boxes were monitored. Sylvester conducted safety inspections to prepare for a safety OSHA inspection, which had positive outcome. Sylvester encouraged library managers, supervisors, and staff to continue with good housekeeping and safety practices to maintain a safe work environment for staff and, most importantly, the community. Thank you, Sylvester. And for our fifth and final nominee, Yvette Madrid. Yvette Madrid works for the Treasurer's Office as a Treasury Technician. Yvette has been in this role for 1 year and with the county for 1 year. Yvette demonstrates great appreciation for safety by documenting all safety concerns and incidences. Yvette takes pride in assisting customers with disabilities to and from the building just to ensure their safety and to prevent an accident from occurring. On one particular day, a customer fell outside of the building, and Yvette provided first aid and followed all protocols to ensure that customer safety and health. Yvette encourages all employees to be aware and attentive to customers and encourages safety awareness. Thank you, Yvette. We have such deserving nominees, and it's very difficult to select one winner. After much deliberation, the committee has selected the winner. I am pleased to announce that our Safety Excellence Award recipient for the fourth quarter of the calendar year 2022, please join me in congratulating Sylvester Curiel.
We're gonna wait, yeah, wait.
Board will take a picture with all the nominees.
I don't think we'll fit in a picture, but we're gonna try. We can try. Slim it.
Slide in.
As long as they don't have children.
Like we like each other.
We're just next to you. Gotta watch the wall. Oh, this is one of those cameras. It used to be that you used to check the roll.
And we'll grab one.
Hey, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good job. Congratulations.
Thank you. We'll take one with you. Stay here. Senor Reyes.
Oh, with the winner, huh?
One more. Winner.
Checks in the mail. Where's the photographer? Who knew, right?
We have one more award. Okay.
Oh, I thought we had one more picture.
Go through this very quickly. Javier Coronado, you heard the information before. Works for Development Services, December 6th, conducting a residential building inspection, witnessed a fellow citizen lose their balance. That citizen hit their head hard on a paver. Those head injuries bleeding, this was bleeding badly. He came over, applied direct pressure. They arrived, they recognized Javier's first aid actions for controlling the bleeding, which prevented the citizen from going into shock. So on this day, on behalf of Yuma County government, we're thrilled to recognize you, sir, for your selfless and courageous act of rendering first aid in a sudden and unexpected situation that resulted in the preservation of human life. It's my great honor to present to you the Life-Saving Award from Yuma County. To you, Javier Coronado. There you go.
Congratulations. I'll hold up.
I'm sure you've seen it live.
Yeah, I have. Telling me, it's a haircut. You don't have to worry about the hair. You think fast.
Channeling your inner Tony.
Thank you. I'll take that.
Sorry. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. That looks good.
Lots of stuff.
I know. Should have gotten one. That since replaced the one I don't have.
Yeah.
I'd like to congratulate those that were nominated and those that ultimately were awarded, especially the life-saving. That's amazing that we have such high caliber people working here, and wanted to congratulate them one more time. We will now have a presentation through County Administration by Julie Engel, President and CEO of GYEDC. Julie, time is yours.
Chair, members of the supervisors, it is always a privilege and an honor to be here and to give you our mid-year update. And it is really awe-inspiring to follow that. That was incredible. And I want to thank the group too. It's good to know that we have people out there who recognize situations. So this is our mid-year update, and I am very grateful that this is ready to go. So we have leading industries, and this hasn't changed in over a decade. These have been our 5 leading industries, but they do ebb and flow significantly. And this year it happens to be maquila, industrial manufacturing, and logistics and distribution. Some years it is more food processing and aviation, but this year the focus is those 3, and that's where the interest is coming from. And these are the things, I apologize for the little glitch there. These are the things that we promote, and we ask all of our partner agencies, the cities of Somerton, San Luis, and Welton, and Yuma County to use these statistics because these represent our strongest assets. Our lack of industrial turnover, our young population, our unionization rate, and our 52 million consumers within a 10-hour truck haul, which is very attractive, and that's why logistics is such a big industry sector this year. So talent is one of the things that is driving a lot of the decisions today, and we are very blessed to have an abundance of labor, and that is a talented labor shed. Excuse me. So we have a lot of exiting military who can go directly into the workforce with skills that are very desirous, especially for our YPG, Yuma Proving Ground, and our contractors who work at Marine Corps Air Station, because these folks have already been cleared. They have the necessary clearance to work in this field, and so they're very desired in those industry sectors. We have a very strong recognized manufacturing program that is actually in Welton. And this manufacturing program has 160 enrollees right now. It says 130, but they've already expanded their program. And our manufacturers helped with the structure and the courses that are being offered because there is a demand for this talent, and we are responding. I couldn't be happier with our partnership with Arizona Western College. I'll talk about that a little bit more. But we have 169,000 in our regional labor force. Now, keep in mind that region is a 75-mile radius, and it does cross state boundaries and international boundaries. And that is a strength. That is absolutely a strength for us. And not to mention, we have a labor shed of workers who for 6 months out of the year are underemployed. So we need that labor shed too. So these are the projects that are happening right now, and it's pretty exciting. We have Plug Hydrogen, who has partnered with Bright Night, and both of these are recognized internationally for their reputation of safety and production, and they are doing a joint project. Bright Night is building 250 megawatts of solar power, and Plug Hydrogen is going to locate right next to Bright Night, and they are going to use that to do their green hydrogen. They're going to use the solar power to generate their hydrogen production. And their hydrogen production is going to supply Arizona's companies and Southern California's companies. And they go into forklifts, they go into trucks. This power has many uses now, and Plug is recognized as one of the safest companies manufacturing hydrogen right now. True North Renewable is also out in the Somerton area, and they are taking waste and converting it into natural gas, and they are putting it right into the natural gas pipeline. So they will be generating and creating several jobs out in that area. That project is almost done. And then Rings is already in place out in Somerton. It is in what we used to call the Purina building. If you all remember, it is a red and white checkered building out in the county. They purchased that property, and they have put a lot of investment into improving that, and it is a very nice looking building now, and they are expanding their presence there. They manufacture the gigantic rings that are used for fishing nets. And so their product is sold all over the world for commercial fishing, and they are growing their manufacturing operation as well. Project Cleveland in San Luis is looking at doing some medical device sanitization. And then the two things that I really wanted to focus on today is the investment that Chicanos por la Casa has made into the San Luis area in the development of spec buildings. They have acquired land at the commercial port of entry, and they will be developing some new industrial space. Panattoni put in a notice into the Yuma Sun ran an article, but it was picked up and it went worldwide actually, because Monday we're already touring a client, and this client will be a game changer for the region if we're successful. So when they saw that announcement, they said, we need to be looking at Yuma because they already have a plant in Mexicali and they're trying to build a West Coast hub. And this is where they want to be. So we're very excited about that announcement because of the attention it drew. Piana is expanding in the San Luis area, and Panattoni I just spoke about. And so this is the estimate right now. But there is one project that isn't up here, and I'm working with Darren, and Darren is very engaged in this. We will be here on March 6th to talk about this project in their zoning. They had a planning and zoning. So this is Cobom Capital, and they will be actually refining minerals for the battery industry. So we are very excited about the project that they're doing. We don't have them up here because this project, the scale of it is still an unknown, and the amount of jobs and CapEx is tremendous. So we're pretty excited about this project, and I want to thank Darren. I want to thank Larry Kilman. Larry Kilman is who they have hired for their environmental issues. And so we do know that they're in good hands and that it will be a safe project. So we're excited about that one, and we will see you on March 6th when we come here to talk about their zoning request. So these are the partners, and this slide wasn't big enough to put all our partners here, but without all of the collaboration that exists in Yuma County, there wouldn't be success. We wouldn't be growing in a positive way that we are right now. So I have to recognize all of our partners, and I apologize for the logos that aren't up here because we do need to see the Arizona Commerce Authority up here. We need to see the SBDC. Oh, Arizona Commerce Authority is there, I apologize. The Small Business Development Center is a partner. You all are partners. Alejandro is part of our team. He's on our, well, I can't call him, he's my staff because I don't have to pay for him, but he's very, very important to what we're doing. Oh, okay, thank you. That would be great. So these are some of the grants that we've been working with, and the Quest grant is a Department of Labor that was received, and the AEA ARPA grant was received. The Arizona Accelerator Grant, we are coming down to the wire. We're very excited about this opportunity, and we have been actually designated by the awardees as a aerospace accelerator because of the spaceport and because we're working with a lot of companies out at YPG for this accelerator. So we're excited about that. And then the NSF engines, we're actually a partner on 3 NSF applications. The National Science Foundation has never awarded these kinds of dollars. We're talking billions of dollars, and they had a requirement, my goodness, a requirement that they had to partner with economic development for these projects because they were working in silos, and they needed them to not only develop new technology, but for that technology to be able to be deployed and capitalized. And so we are a partner with U of A, and U of A is an agriculture NSF application, and we're very excited about what's going to happen in that realm if awarded. We're partnered with San Diego State University and Imperial Valley on the lithium that is being mined at the Salton Sea. And we are partnered with Greater Phoenix Economic Council on a healthcare NSF where Yuma is the learning lab. So if any of these 3 are awarded, we will see a dynamic impact in this region. So we're very excited about the future and these opportunities that continue to present themselves. We are also trying to find other grants, of course, through the alliance that we still share with SECAR, which was the Southern Arizona Coalition for Climate Adaptation. And so we continue to look for funds. We're actually going to be meeting with the airport tomorrow to help find some funds for another hangar, which we're very excited about. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Don't put it back up. Can you move back to where it says one striking region? I got a couple of questions for you. That one.
Yes.
Not the fact that it overlaps that, but what is a -3 industrial turnover? What does it mean?
That means there's less than 3% turnover year over year in the industry sector. So our manufacturers do not suffer from what a lot of manufacturers, especially metropolitan areas, suffer from, which is huge turnover. Someone can offer them 50 cents more an hour and they jump. We have very loyal employees, and we do believe that that does come from that culture that agriculture created, which is you work hard and you're appreciated and you stay with your employer. And our employers recognize that. We have kind of, when they come into the market, we explain to them that this is one of the best workforces you're going to find, but you have to respect them. You have to treat them, you know, with respect and engage them, and you will not have turnover. And that's why 5 of our manufacturers have been awarded top performing plants within their families for multiple years because of this workforce that we have. So that's what the -3, it's less than 3% turnover.
For the manufacturing unionization, unions.
Less than 1% of our manufacturers have unions.
Is that what it means?
Yes, yes, which is very desirous for companies because unions take away their ability to treat their employees the way that our employees like to be treated. Because our employees get stipends. Almost everybody has a, okay.
I tend to agree that in the manufacturing sector, they would be a little resistant to unionization. I get that. But whether that's something that we would publish sounds a little bit it's an overstatement. I don't know. I don't know whether unions, I know unions are not going to like it, but I mean, do you actually publish this way?
Absolutely. And because that is very important. A lot of them are leaving union states like California. A lot of them are leaving states on the East Coast that are unionized because we're a right to work state. That yes, we are. We are using it as an attraction tool.
Right. We don't have to like it. All right.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Judy.
All right, thank you, guys.
Time over to Martine.
All right.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I was expecting balloons and cake. It's my birthday. Where's my present?
Martine, look.
We were signing something. The check's in the mail.
Is it appropriate to sing happy birthday now?
I just turned
You turned
47,
25,
so.
27. In Yuma County, I'm telling you.
Everybody on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to
There you
you.
go.
This is a painful thing. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Turning red now.
Well, this is- you asked for it, dude.
No,
One of the views you get.
That's.
It makes you feel right at home, brother.
Thank you. It does.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you,
It is
thank
his
you.
birthday, so we wanted you all to join, but we understand how embarrassment takes over and stuff.
He's buying everybody lunch for his birthday, so.
Meet over at Luke's.
Before.
He's paying for it.
Jonathan, is that true? You're paying?
No, you're paying.
Oh,
You're
that's
paying
not-
it.
It's your honor.
What are you, birthday?
Moving on to, before we move on to the county line, I do have a speaker form.
No, that's
we
for the
don't.
item.
That's for the item. Those
No,
are the
No,
items.
he already spoke.
Oh,
Sorry.
oh,
I
okay,
apologize.
all right, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 3, county line.
A much-needed multi-purpose complex is coming to the Foothills area. Local agencies join together to learn about the dangers of ammonia. And a unique specialty court program aims to assist veterans in the legal system. These stories and more, this is your County Line. Yuma County hosted a groundbreaking ceremony at the Foothills Library branch for Yuma County's Foothills Multipurpose Complex project. The Foothills Multipurpose Complex entails transforming the land east of the Foothills Library into a family-friendly space. The complex will include a grassy area, a walking path, a ramada with picnic tables, a children's playground, and an asphalt parking lot.
I think it's going to be a win-win for everybody. You know, just not just your snowbirds or your winter visitors or your full-time residents that have retired here wanting a walking path or just someplace to go to sit and enjoy the weather and the desert outside, as well as the families. You're seeing more and more families moving to the foothills with kids, and they want someplace to take those kids and have fun.
Arizona State Parks and Trails is funding this $1 million project in collaboration with Yuma County. In November, the Board of Supervisors accepted a grant from the Arizona State Parks and Trails to complete the first phase of the Foothills Multipurpose Complex project. Yuma County intends to seek additional grant funds in the future to design additional phases. We'll keep you up to date on the park's development. Yuma County is well known for its agricultural roots and leafy greens, but many people may be unaware of the use of ammonia in farming. A lot of safety considerations come with this use, and your county is working with other agencies to ensure our safety. The Yuma Area Ammonia Days are a combination of local businesses, public safety, and local government agencies that have come together to teach how to respect and appreciate this widely used chemical. Commonly referred to as Ammonia Days for short, local experts present on ammonia exposure, basic refrigeration, and safety response topics.
Well, anytime we can have an event where we bring in the industry to learn more about some of the safety measures that can be taken and some of the mitigation efforts and some of the advanced equipment that's out there, it's very important to our community, especially dealing with ammonia.
Yuma County's Office of Emergency Management participates in the planning and execution of this annual gathering in order for responders to be better prepared and coordinated in the unlikely event of an incident. This is just one facet of your county's emergency response plan and preparation. To find out more about these events and emergency preparedness, go to yumacountyaz.gov for more information. Yuma County Superior Court and Yuma Justice Court offer veterans a path to recovery through a specialty court program. Yuma County Veterans Treatment Court is a comprehensive treatment program that provides judicial oversight, supervision, incentives, and sanctions to help veterans who are struggling with mental health and addiction issues. The program's goal is to promote public safety, reduce jail time and repeated interaction with the Criminal Justice Center, and to connect veterans with needed treatment and critical support.
This program will definitely continue. There's a lot of need, and we have a lot of veterans in Yuma County, and we want to be able to reach as many as possible and help as many as possible resolve the issues that brought them in front of the courts.
The first treatment court was held on February 3, 2021, and the first graduation ceremony was last December, where 5 participants were recognized for completing the program. For more information on the Veterans Court Treatment Program or other programs offered by the courts, visit yumacountyaz.gov under the Courts tab.
I'm Elia Juarez, and this is your Library Update. One of our favorite annual traditions returns this March, and everyone is invited. The 39th annual Teddy Bear Picnic is returning on March 25th. Everyone in town is invited to participate, although the program is best for kids 6 and under and their parents. All you have to do is come to the main library with your favorite bear or stuffed animal, and between the hours of 10 a.m. and noon in our Centennial Heritage Park, right behind Main Library, you can enjoy special bear-themed games, bear-themed story times, an appearance by Booker Bear, and all kinds of fun activities and prizes. For more information on this or any of our other great programs, make sure to check out our website and follow us across our social media platforms. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
We like to take a moment each quarter to recognize our Safety Award winner. This quarter, we recognize Sylvester Curiel, who works for the Library District as an IT manager. During the absence of the library safety officer, Sylvester took initiative with updating the safety data sheets and identified cost-effective security cameras to install at all of the library branches. Sylvester conducted safety inspections to prepare for a scheduled OSHA inspection, which had a positive outcome. Sylvester encouraged library managers, supervisors, and staff to continue with good housekeeping and safety practices to maintain a safe environment for staff and the community. And this is why Sylvester Curiel is the Quarter Safety Award winner. We would also like to recognize an employee whose heroic actions have earned him a life-saving award from the county. On December 6, 2022, Javier Coronado was conducting a residential building inspection and witnessed a fellow citizen lose their balance and struck their head on concrete pavers, which caused a significant head injury. Without hesitation, Javier ran to assist the citizen and called 911. Javier's first aid actions controlled the citizen's bleeding, which prevented hypovolemic shock until medical personnel arrived. Thank you, Javier, for performing the heroic act of first aid to save human life. Before we head out, construction work is underway at the future Yuma County Administration Services building, located at 197 South Main Street, and you can watch the progress live. Anyone can navigate to yumacountyaz.gov/construction update, or click on the link at the top of the Yuma County homepage. Residents have access to a live streaming camera that shoots towards the west side of the construction site. The camera is available for viewing 24 hours every day. Thank you for joining us for this County Line. We'd like to know of any story ideas you may have. And if you're looking for stories we've covered in the past, log on to the website at yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. We'll see you on the next County Line.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of comments.
Go ahead.
Turn the lights on. First, it's nice to see how Tony Medina looks like, because he was wearing a mask here when he comes in. So now we know what he looks like. And second, I saw in the judge in the Veterans Court, Judge Gould, who hasn't been with us. He was actually a Supreme Court judge for a while. Then he ran for Attorney General. And to see him back there, I thought maybe he's come back to Yuma County and he's hunting us again, hunting me again. But I hear it. That's just an old footage. Guys, get some new footage. That's a scary thing. To have Andy come back, it's scary thing. But Andy, no, congratulations to Andy. He retired from the Supreme Court and he's probably somewhere in Phoenix. You know, I hope he doesn't hear this and comes back. Is Andy working for us?
No. Okay.
It's an old footage, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, it's file footage. It's got to be because you know, I remember when he appeared. Yeah, things.
Innocent.
Yes, I suppose so. But anyway, Andy, good to see you. You know, no footage.
You're safe now.
We're safe now.
You're safe.
Judy's
I'm sorry.
Moving on to consent agenda. Items 1 to 12.
I'll make a motion. We approve consent calendar as presented.
I would second that motion as presented, items 1 through 12.
There's a motion and a second to approve consent calendar.
Wait, I'd like to pull item number 8.
I will withdraw my second.
So the motion would be to approve all items except number 8. I'd like to talk about number 8 for a minute.
And I will
second
that motion.
So we pull the first motion and got a motion to approve
Items 1 through 12.
1 to 12 except number 8. And their second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. I heard Lynn on the phone.
Yeah, she said aye. Yeah, she said
It was very faint. Thanks, Lynn.
I'm open
Go
up
ahead.
number 8.
I'll open up number 8.
Okay, number 8 is to approve the following appointments to the Merit Award System Board for calendar year 2023. It was to reappoint Judy Gill, Diane Humphries, Nancy Tucker, and Bobby Firebush, and a new appointment, Lisette Servin from District 4. And I just wanted to acknowledge some of these people have been serving in Yuma County for 20, 30 years on the Merit Award Board. It's a tough board to be on because you have to choose the Employee of the Year, you have to go through a lot of stuff. And it's sort of anticlimactic when somebody retires and we don't even remember to give him thanks. And Gary Black served on that board for over 20 years. I like to personally thank him. He represented me on that board for over 20 years. I'd like to thank him and thank the new member that is willing to serve on that board. They don't serve all year long. They serve at specific times. So, but it's a very tough decision they make. They actually go through the process of selecting someone in the justice court system to be the employee of the year, and someone in the whole Yuma County to do so. And just take the opportunity to acknowledge the lot of work they do. They're volunteers and they show up, and you know, it's always to me an opportunity to say thank you to them. It's one we should take. So I want to thank all of them, the ones that are now being reappointed to serve and the ones that have served in the past, because I know some of them served for years. And in the case of Diana, for example, she's been serving there and now she's not.
A long time.
Yeah, for a long time. So I just wanted to make sure we acknowledge their service.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we approve item 8.
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve item number 8. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to discussion items. Item number 1, County Administration Construction Management. And this is presented by Dave. Dave.
Good morning.
Morning.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, Dave Hillen, Construction Project Director.
Excuse me.
That's all right.
I came in and tried to sit by.
I know it's been a long time, but our new chairman supports us. I don't want Tony taking control. I don't want Tony taking control of the meeting.
Let me tell out. Yeah, next time any employee, any staff member saying Chairman Reyes will deduct a day.
A week's pay. It will be sent. It will be sent to the. It will be sent to the chairman's favorite charity.
Chairman Porteous, and happy birthday, and I'd sing happy birthday to you, but that would be weird, so I'll skip that.
Thank you.
I do feel a little bit out of place. I feel like this should be a health update after however many weeks of having Diana Gomez in this slot, and I'd be happy to give you a health update, but we'll get right to the point here. We are talking this morning about our Yuma County Administration Services building project, and in particular, we're focusing on the area on the north side of the project site, the shared property line between the county property and the Regency Main Street Cinema property to the north, and how our project impacts that, as well as the area directly past beyond the project line. To kind of get to the point and start off with a bit of a project update, if you will, we are at a point now in the project progression. We are anticipating the delivery of the 50% construction document package this coming Friday, and this follows the previous phases of design where we've gone through, as you know, and you've heard presentations on the feasibility study, the conceptual design and programming, schematic design, design development. Now we're into that final design phase of developing the construction documents. So with the release of the 50% CD package this Friday, the county will have a period of 3 weeks to review and comment back to the design team on this package. At the same time, our contractor will be reviewing and updating his cost estimate over that same 3-week period. And that will be something that I'll be bringing to the steering committee once we have that number in place. Yeah. So we're anxious to see this package. This package represents an extensive amount of work that's taken place since the last release. With the release of the design development package, we saw some new features that added cost to the project. And with our commitment to hold to the budget that we established after the schematic design phase, we've implemented a number of changes, value management items, and design changes that we anticipate will bring that back within the budgeted amount for the project. And that's what I anticipate being able to report to the steering committee when we meet in mid-April, in March, excuse me. At that same time, in mid part of March, we'll have the design team here present in Yuma, and we have a number of focused meetings on the final details of the design taking place at that time. We'll be meeting with some of you who have already received invites to those meetings, and that's getting down into the fine details, such as the design of the board supervisor auditorium dais and things of that nature. All this, of course, leads up to the release of the 95% CD package, which we anticipate taking place towards the end of April. That is the release that the contractor will be developing his guaranteed maximum price proposal from, which will come to the board for approval in the early part of May. From there, of course, it's the final details, the table of contents and general notes and that sort of thing that go into the package to take it from 95 to 100% completion, which gets submitted then to the city for plan review and for permit. Along the way, as this has progressed, of course, we've seen some changes to the building in general, and in particular to this north side of the building design. And it's taken some time to develop and understand the impact of that design to the site and to the various code restrictions that dictate exactly what can happen in this area. And that's what we're here to discuss this morning. Excuse me. As we've looked at this too, there's been a couple things that sort of overlap. And again, understanding as the building itself evolves in the design, and looking at that impact of code requirements on this side of the building, but also taking other items into account as well in terms of how the space outside of the building looks and feels. And it's basically summarized here. So the situation is, as you are all aware, the building lies in the Historic Overlay District, downtown Yuma, on Main Street, where we experience a fair amount of what we call zero lot line construction. And this comes about over a history of 100 years or more of buildings being constructed. As you can see in this aerial view of this project site, you see a number of buildings that share a common wall. This is our project site here, and it's made up of 3 separate buildings that are essentially joined together and share a common wall on the north and south side. You see some newer examples as well, such as the Red Moon Ale House here that shares a common wall with our Recording Elections building at 102 South Main. And even where we are now, this building was 2 separate buildings at one point in time joined together along this common wall over here on this side. So it's not a new situation by any means, but as you can also see from this view, the buildings came first, and lot lines were established after the fact, and obviously not a whole lot of choice other than to place property lines where the extents of the building walls were. So because of that, we're in a situation where that is still allowed to take place for new construction, can be constructed right up to and on top of the property line itself. Of course, again, certain code restrictions, requirements need to be accounted for. In our case, while we were looking at, we of course included the building here at 185 South Main to add to the overall building area. We are still constrained by the extents of the space shown here for each floor of the building. Hasn't been a problem as we've developed the first and second floor, but on the third floor in particular, we find space where we need to really maximize use of every square foot available of building space. And you can see the result are areas such as this here, where the building actually extends out beyond the extent of the building itself in a couple of locations. So we are maximizing floor space on each floor. And that coupled with, again, sort of a unique shape, if you will, you discover along the way as these lot lines were developed that there's very rarely do you find an actual 90-degree property corner. They're the extended random angles around the extents of the site. But we have a situation with this design where all 4 sides of the building either are resting on the property line or touching it somewhere along the way. As such, we need to pay attention to this code requirement here, and this is the crux of the matter, if you will, and that's establishing an appropriate fire separation distance off of that north wall of the building. Now, we do have a couple other items that we want to account for as well. We have, as you saw on that last screen, we have a situation where the extents of the upper floor do pass over across the property line in its existing configuration. We also have some access doors on the north side of that building that we need to maintain access to. That includes doors to our fire riser room, our electrical room, and very recently added emergency exit. Again, that came about as a result of discussion with the city and our code consultant to determine exiting distance inside the building. And the result was that an additional door was added along that north wall just within last 2 or 3 weeks. However, these 2 items here are resolved as the fire separation distance issue is resolved. So this is the most restrictive. This is the thing we want to focus on. And as we take care of that, the others will fall under that. So when you start talking about fire separation distance is broken into various categories, we are dealing with the category here which deals with an amount of opening on that wall of less than 25%. So as you look at this rendering of the north wall, you count up the total amount of square footage coverage of windows and doors along this wall. And recognizing that design has target on that number and maintained it, we are sitting at 24% across the opening to be able to fall within that category. As such, that means we need to make sure that our fire separation distance is at least 3 feet. And again, what that's saying is that there is to be no existing or future construction taking place within that space. So it needs to be either 3 feet beyond the furthest out opening or 2 feet beyond the furthest projection. And this latter is the part that we're focused on. Again, you can see here that we have essentially a shade wrapping around the extent of these windows on the 3rd floor to provide shade against the summer sun on that side. And just as a side note, if you will, this is the north side of the building, and in any situation, that's the side that you want to maximize. Obviously, you know, here in summer in Yuma, we're dealing with the effects of the sun year round. Obviously, you're dealing with morning sun on the east side, the hot afternoon sun on the west side. We're taking measures to protect against that, and the south side is exposed to sun year round. North side, of course, is least impacted by the sun, except for at the height of summer. And we want to make use of that as well as take advantage of views from that side of the building as well.
Chairman?
Right.
Dave, do you have any idea of what those windows at the northeast corner, how they interface with the building that's adjacent?
The theater building? Yes, yeah, and you'll actually see it. I have a good rendering right down the walkway through there, so you'll see that. They do look out over the top of it.
Okay.
So, what do we do about this situation? So, we also want to take into account existing conditions. So, as far as what's there currently, we observe that we have an existing walkway that connects through from Maiden Lane to Main Street all the way across the property. After conducting a title search and verifying with our recorder and assessor's office, no easement's ever been established and recorded across that site, which means that walkway lies entirely on the movie theater property. As well, we noticed that there are 3 existing doors that exit out of the south wall of the movie theater building directly onto this walkway. They're not just emergency exits, they are regular exiting doors that their patrons can use at any time. We need to take that into consideration as well. On top of that, some other things that could potentially impact our building, how it looks and operates. As follows, we want to consider the operation of the building itself, not least of which includes utilities to the building. We have our domestic water entering the building along that north side, our fire water to the fire riser along that north side, our electrical room on the north side, as well as things just exposure and whatnot on that side of the building, determine how the building operates. We have security concerns to take into account. That side of the building, in the time that we have owned the legacy building, you can see obviously the other 3 sides are fairly open and highly visible. There's a somewhat narrow corridor through here, so any graffiti or vandalism that we've seen take place to date has been along this wall of this size. So we want to think about that in terms of our new building design and how we may be best prepared to address any security concerns along that side of the building. We want to think about accessibility in general. Now, this walkway, relative to our new building design, doesn't necessarily serve this building very much. Our primary points of access are along the south side on all 3, on the Main Street side, 2nd Street, and Main Lane side over here. However, it does serve a general purpose in providing patrons parking here, access to businesses and whatnot along Main Street. So taking that into account and understanding the value of that to the county and to the city as well. Lastly, just giving a little bit of a thought towards aesthetics in general. How does the building appear based on what's there now, as well as what could be there in that space from the outside, as well as, again, those views from the inside looking out. So all these things are things that we want to take into and making a decision how to best approach what comes next. So again, the project site here, slightly enlarged aerial view of the walkway. Couple things to point out with this view. You see a partial topographic survey on the bottom. You'll notice again the property line, this bold black line that lines up directly on top of the north wall of the legacy building. You'll also notice again nothing is square or perpendicular down here. We have sort of a wedge shape. It's actually 4 feet roughly difference approximately 15 feet wide at this end, approximately 11 feet wide at the east end, tapering down as you go west to east. You'll notice a couple things such as the presence of a private underground sewer line, a couple of cleanouts located here, undoubtedly flowing out to Main Street and north from there from the movie theater building. Again, those planters and landscaping along that side of the building, just things to keep in mind going forward. From the ground view, this is the area we're discussing, standing from Main Street looking east towards Maiden Lane. Again, you get a sense of the narrowing as you extend down the corridor. A couple other items to point out. Notice that the building, when we talk about the distance between face of building to face of building, we're talking primarily to the major face of the movie theater. However, there are things that extend off of the building that we need to take into account going forward. So you notice this kind of faux capital on top of this column here that extend out, as well as this architectural detail here that extends approximately 10 inches into this space. You also notice a couple things. There's an overflow roof drain leader draining out onto the concrete. You notice the concrete extends right up to the building wall. There's another roof drain that drains to one of the planters further back. From the east side, looking back the other way, here's those 3 doors I mentioned that exit out of the movie theater onto this. You see some things too that may cause some questions, such as the raised curb around this directly adjacent to the doorway that to me looks like a tripping hazard. The landscaping here, again, it looks like one bush has been maintained while the others are fairly overgrown. It is well lit at night. There's a number of wall packs units on the exterior wall that keep it fairly well lit. And again, this is where we discovered most of the vandalism taking place along this wall here. This is the, as mentioned earlier, this is what we anticipate the final construction to look like as you look pretty much directly down this the walkway from the Maiden Lane side looking towards Main Street. And you can barely see, this is, again, since we are building a square building, a rectangular shaped building with right angles, you'll notice that this is now, instead of sitting right on the property line, this corner here is approximately 4 feet off of our property line. This is the existing property line here. And if you track this all the way up, you'll see that even though the 3rd floor, like I mentioned, does extend out over past the outer wall of the new building, it's still within our property line here. It's this shade wrap, if you will, that it does project beyond the property line. It's designed. So a couple of options that we can explore and to address this, and again, focusing primarily on the fire separation distance, the FSD, as well as with other considerations I mentioned. The minimum approach would be for the county to extend an offer to establish either an easement or a purchase of up to this minimum distance of 7 feet, 7 inches off of the existing northwest corner property line. What that would look like is about where this yellow center line is here. That's roughly what the minimum space that's needed to satisfy code. And that would be sufficient. However, again, to keep in mind that that doesn't provide any control or input even on what could happen in this additional space. So right now, I think we enjoy the benefits of having this roughly 10-foot wide walkway down here. If we were to only look at this minimal space, there's nothing that would prevent in future encroachment from this side into this space. You know, the scenario could be that maybe the movie theater business is not doing as well and they want to convert this to something else. We could see potentially, in theory, you could have a taller wall much closer off the end of our building down the road. With that in mind, options to consider include looking at that maximum area available from our existing north property line to the south wall of the movie theater. If you remove that approximately 10-inch of projection off of that, you're looking at a space of roughly 14 feet 4 at the west end, 10 feet 4 on the east end. That's what this area looks like from an aerial view. Again, you see the existing property line here extending at an angle along the orange area, and this hatched area represents the total area of a potential easement or offer of purchase. And again, roughly this halfway point represents the required for code compliance.
Dave, what do you recommend?
This is, let me, if you may, let me just, there's just one more slide to look at really. This is what that area would look like. Again, you're seeing again the overall area, maximum area available, which results in an area of about just under 2,000 square feet of space. And by the way, what we have right now, as I chatted a little bit with Bill earlier, we've received an informal assessment from our appraiser for the value, which is placed it at approximately $10 a square foot in value.
Dave, real quick, do we have adequate fire access?
Yes. Okay. Yes, but it is, again, it's something to consider. If you're talking about a minimum, actually this shows it fairly well. Here's that emergency exit door. Okay. So you can say that remains within existing property line. That is pretty much right at 3 feet right there. We obviously, want to make sure that we're protecting the space beyond that, so we can get out onto the sidewalk and exit out. If we were discussing an offer of purchase, all the way, well, either way, right up to the movie theater wall or some distance off of that, we'd be required to then extend an access easement back to the movie theater owner so they can continue to use those exiting doors on the north side out onto this walkway. So if that easement covers that walkway, you're talking about 1,805 square feet, and you can see the net difference in between is not very much. That's really a gain. As a potential alternative to this again from the ground view showing you the max space available. This is an alternative concept which moves either the north end of an easement or again an offer of purchase, potential north property line, maintaining a space of 3 feet off of the movie theater wall, which keeps all the existing landscaping and irrigation and everything that goes with that onto the movie theater property. Again, an easement would have to be applied over this area so they have access to their sewer line underneath the walkway and their patrons are able to use these exiting doors. Likewise, that would give us free access out of our doors as well and across the way. So to answer your question, that's what that area looks like secondary. In my mind, in my opinion, talking with the project team, our designers and engineers and everyone else involved with this, the general consensus is that an offer of purchase would be the cleanest approach as opposed to a no-build and access easement across the area. In terms of not being able to answer for the property owner what he's willing to accept, I believe we need to have authorization to be able to offer up to the maximum area in case that's what his preference is. As far as what the county really needs, I would say this is the minimum area needed to be able to manage the walkway through here and prevent any future encroachment on our building. If it came into a case where there was not a willingness to discuss or negotiate a deal, and we're looking at a friendly condemnation sort of scenario, I would propose this for that direction.
So Dave, let me ask you, what you're saying those exit doors over there on the right, they're okay? That meets the...
Technically, they fall within our property, yeah, and we have, again, a 3 foot clear.
So why would we need to purchase all the way to their property line and if there's an easement, I mean, if there's sewer line there, I honestly, the same codes that we're going by the city is the same codes that any other owner is going to have to go by. They won't be able to come in all the way to our building. So, I mean, I just don't see.
Maybe I need to just sort of grasp the concept here. The concept here is to protect future right away. That's the concept. Or move the building back. And moving the building back is going to be much more expensive than actually securing the right of way. But we would be buying the property and basically giving them access to it at this point, because obviously with an exit from one of the theaters, they have to walk people out of it through there. So what you're asking us, as I see it, is offer the guy or offer the owner, make him an offer and say, look, we like to buy this, so in the future you won't be able to say, well, we're going to move this or do something else with it. We would have authority over it. But the condition would be that we give him access to whatever he's got there. So we won't build anything on it. We have to leave it clear, because it would be sort of like a purchase to create an easement so that he has access to the stuff he sold us on top of under the stuff he sold us. Is that, and you're talking
Yes, and
about
at
$10 a foot?
that's correct. And at the same time, you know, protecting ourselves again from any future
Well, that's the
construction
point.
that
That's
could
the
approach
only
that area.
point that I would argue for this for. You know, it's just protecting our future because we like to think that we like to have access on that side. And if the theater decides to tear it down and build something else, we want to make sure that he doesn't cut off access to our point there, which would be 3 feet anyway, because that's the minimum you would have to do within our property. So are we looking at what? $10 a foot for 2,000 feet? So we're looking at $200,000?
The smaller area is just under 1,600 square feet. The larger area is just under 2,000 square feet. So you're talking about between 16 and 20,000.
I think we have to do.
But
And I
you know
should
what?
mention too that we do have this within the project
This
budget.
is probably a question for legal. Statute of limitations of using a pathway that it's been there for so many years. So who's going to come and get it? If we wanted to do that, they could use that against us. So I just don't see buying it or buy whatever we need for the exit doors, but purchasing it all, I just don't see it.
I'm sorry.
The statute of limitations, when there's a pathway or a road that has been used for so many years, it becomes public access.
Is there such a thing
Is there-
on
yeah.
private property like this?
But my understanding is the owner of the theater left that there so that his patrons could come back and forth.
Oh.
It's for his use. It's his property. So it's not, he hasn't abandoned that property.
I was going to tell you that. I think that
No, but
applies.
nobody
That's the intended
roads.
use by the owner.
But he uses it for his
Yeah.
own purpose. It's a
Mhm.
private use. That's his
Mhm.
private property. He uses it already for
Well,
access
he's
to
going
his
to
patrons.
continue using it.
Well, I don't know what. I tell you what. Of all the project costs that I would see, you know, that would be worth doing, this one would probably be worth doing to me. You know, spending $20,000 making sure that nobody encroaches on your building, that you own the property next to on the side, instead of moving the building. To me, it's a much cost-effective way, instead of redesigning or coming up with some little exit that, you know, you always live under the threat that the guy next door to you is going to build something that's going to be up against your building. I only look at it that way. I mean, it's a long explanation, but, you know, to me, it's just a matter of whether you want to make sure that in the future you don't get encroached by someone that has the property next to you because our property line is really up against the building, or if you want to have that pathway. If you're not thinking about that as an access point, you know, allowing people to come to this side to get into this side of the building, because we got the other side.
Yeah.
You know, we got people can come around the other side. It's this side. If the guy decides to come real close. Now, I'm a little concerned that we're building, and you showed the sign there, but we're building on top of that. It looks to me like the theater is there, and for some reason we're building either up to property line, and it looks on that view that we may be building right up to property line.
No, it's on the
It's up to property line, isn't it?
on our
property.
on our property.
At the far end, the northwest corner of the building sits right on the property corner. And then as you move east, it's moving away from the property.
So we're building within a property line. If anybody decides to encroach, it's going to come up against actually our property line.
Yeah, and again, the issue, the main focus is actually this corner right here. Because of the angle of the property line, this is the corner of projection that extends the furthest beyond the property line.
Until the east air?
Yes, yeah, if you followed this property line straight up, it would slice through that.
How much are we gutting out, or how much are we coming out on top? Is it 2 feet, 4 feet?
4.
4 feet.
At the furthest point is at 4 feet.
So we'll be 4 feet into his property. I mean, air. I mean, I'm talking
Yep,
about on
yeah.
top of his property.
This
What
is
would-
31 and a half feet roughly above ground right here.
I wouldn't do that. We get into a lot of conflicts that way. I think the best way to avoid conflict is to avoid a situation where you don't have control over what's next to you. That'd be my opinion. And if you do it early enough, like right now, you may be able to get it for something reasonable. Later on, it may become a...
Yeah, to finish the thought on the appraisal, we have requested a formal appraisal from our appraiser. It's in progress.
Way too much. I was just telling the chairman, it's way too much discussion for a $20,000 possible expense on a building that's going to cost you $50 million to protect the side. to me, that's really not even it's a no-brainer. Conceptually, in principle, I wouldn't do it. On principle, I'd say, well, the guy's got to have an exit for his property. And we buying a property for letting him use it, to get access to his sewer and everything else. It's really his risk, and he may not want to do that. But at this particular time, I'd say that to protect our investment, our large investment in there from encroachment, and to avoid some probably legal ramifications about building on top of his property, I would say that we sort of control that area. And controlling it for $20,000 to me, it doesn't seem to be that big of an expense for a building that's going to cost $50 million.
That's a good insurance policy.
Yeah, I think you rather own it than to be at the mercy of whatever, the owner decides, or the owner. I thought that was owned by the tribe, so I was gonna. It was previous. So they sold it to someone that now owns it.
Yuma 8 LLC.
Well, again, what you want is approval to go ahead and proceed, because at this particular time you don't have a proposal. I'd say go ahead and proceed.
Yeah, and to be clear, I've had
the owner decides.
I've had discussions with the property owner, so he is aware of the situation. I've not been authorized to make any sort of offer, so nothing has been.
This is, obviously, we're paying and quite a bit of money. This thing should have come up since the very beginning. I know things come up, especially with code, but I can see a door, I can see, but buying that much, and it's like Mr. Reyes says, $20,000, not a lot for a $50,000 building. $50 million building, but I'll agree on it. We got to eliminate $20,000 on other things. I don't care. Window, certain areas that don't have windows, I don't even see why.
You'd be surprised what that building's going to cost now, just with inflation.
Well,
inflation
and just windows on this side that you're not going to be able, you can be looking at a wall. I don't, honestly.
The principal thing now. If I learn something from the chairman, is that later on somebody's going to say, why did you guys do that? And you're going to say, well, at the time it seemed like a good idea. So I guess what he's saying is, look, if you're going to increase the cost by 20,000, you better find somewhere to
that we can save 20,000.
Which I think is
definitely not done yet with our value management work and finding ways.
And maybe
to
we want to wait till we can want to add everything, because then it's going to be more.
I'll tell you what, I've been around long enough to know that little things become big things later on in life. And so, even construction that started off estimated at $2 million is going to be 2.5 today, 5 years later. And so the building that we thought we'd spent $10 million on is now a $50 million building. And I can point to the port of entry in San Luis, who was $67 million at the time, and is now $300 million. And I can keep pointing to all these projects that were supposed to be done at one time at a budget and ended up costing 30 or 40% because somebody took them on. And it waited too long to make these decisions. The only thing I regret in the time that I've been here is that we didn't start earlier with this process, because I know it's going to take a long time. And just the fact that you're telling us we're going to be looking at value engineering and looking at the cost and try to figure ways to save, I'd say that you ought to save another $20,000, because it's going to come up. That's a principle thing, because I don't think it's a cost thing. It is. Every dollar is a cost thing. But in principle, it just feels like we're stuck in a situation that should have been seen by someone else before. And the design should have gotten into, look, I can see already that the 3 foot meets the requirement for an exit, for an emergency exit, even if the other one encroaches in it. But I'd say that being able to control the right of way or the property next to us, it's always worth money. Later on, it makes your job much easier to make a decision on what to do, especially if you're going to build something on top that's going to jut over somebody else's property. That's always a problem to me. So either you design it further back, or
all right. So
you don't have to be in agreement. It's your birthday. You can do anything you want. I'm just gonna. Is this it?
That's it. Just need direction.
To the actual cost, because I think right now we're just estimating it to cost $10 a foot, but things cost what somebody else is willing to pay. In government, we have appraisals, we have maximums we can pay for something. There's a difference when you negotiate with government about what you can pay. But there's always that owner that thinks, well, there's some deep pockets, and I don't want to I don't want to get into that. I'd like to have an open.
He's watching.
Approach,
He's
but
watching,
he's probably
so-
watching. But if it comes within a reasonable amount, considering the size of this project, considering what we're looking at, protecting that side, I'd look at it positively. I'll make a motion right now that we allow you to proceed, and get more details. And when you're ready, bring it back to us.
I would second that motion.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, so there's no direction to authorize Mr. Hillen at this point to enter into negotiations. We're just getting the value.
Negotiations is what I'm asking him to do. What I'd like to see is what the end result of those negotiations is going to be, so we can make a decision. And take into consideration that the chairman feels strongly that if we spend more money outside and buying more land, that we should be able to adjust it inside the project.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Bill?
Mr. Chairman, I'll remind you, with regard to a straight purchase, you're limited to the appraised price of the property. That's the extent.
This on an executive meeting where we can actually talk about pros and cons of buying, land. We're doing this as openly as we can because this is a building that we like to do that. But when it comes to real estate deals, it is not a good idea to discuss it in the open like this.
But it's still
During
appraised
the meeting.
value.
That's what that is for.
As Mr. Hillen pointed out, we are in the process of getting a formal appraisal of that property. And once we get the appraised price of the property that we want to purchase, we can extend that offer to the owner to pay him the appraised price of the property. He either accepts it or declines it. At that point,
Process, but we're in the early part of the process where we're telling him, okay, we'll entertain you bringing it over, and that's what you're asking us. I think you're asking us, what is it?
To establish.
Discussion and possible action to authorize the commissioner to make an offer of purchase. That's a little further up ahead, I see. I think the way it's listed right now, you're putting us in a situation where we'll allow you to negotiate and purchase something that we don't know what's going to cost. I think you got to come back to us with what your final negotiated amount is, and then we'll give you a decision.
The appraised. You don't have the appraised
You don't have
value.
the appraised value yet. You don't.
I only have what you've seen as an attachment from our appraiser, which was based
You
on.
go ahead and negotiate it, and then, but you have to bring it back.
With the clear explanation that we're not able to offer it above the appraised value. Okay.
Is that okay?
You want to amend your?
Well, the
Tony?
motion was, I thought that was a motion. I didn't actually read the.
Recommended
bill.
motion.
My motion, I saw the recommended motion. I think I didn't go that far. The motion to me would be to instruct the manager, the
Construction project
construction
director.
project manager, to go ahead and negotiate with the owner, if the owner is willing to, a price to purchase his property. Once you negotiated that, bring it to us for final decision. Is that okay? I mean, it's
Well,
not gonna
Mr.
take-
Chairman,
It's not gonna stop anything, is it?
Supervisor Reyes, would you amend it to say that it would be the agreed to purchase at the appraised value, which is by law what we have to do?
I think if we do that, we're approving it right now without really knowing how much it's going to cost. We know the maximum it's going to cost, because I think you mentioned that we could just simply make the motion say that the maximum we'll pay for is the appraised value of the property.
That's it.
Correct.
That would be the motion.
there's not a typical negotiation as you would in between private parties for a purchase of property. You're limited to the appraised price. You would give Mr. Hillen the authority to determine the appraised price, offer that amount to purchase that property from the owner. He either accepts it or rejects it. If he rejects it, then the option for the board is to condemn the property. I mean, he's going to ask you, you can't go in and say, if it's $20,000 is the appraised price, he's not going to take 10. He's going to want to know what's the maximum amount you can pay. That's the appraised price.
Here's my take on it. The chairman isn't ready, isn't even willing to. So I'm just trying to move the process along so we can get it to a point where we know more facts about it, how much it's going to cost, that kind of stuff. And if you're asking me to make a decision today and just allow Mr. Highland to just go and negotiate a price and pay and offer it, then I'm not willing to make that motion. The motion that I'm willing to make is to allow him to negotiate a price, get the facts done, get what he will take for it within the scope of the fact that we have to work within certain and bring it to us for a final decision. That's the motion that I'd like to make. Okay?
I'll second that motion.
I know it may not be what's listed here, but I think that what's listed here is more than I'm making. It's a motion that's more confined than I'm making. I'm making a sort of an open motion that allows him to proceed. with what he's doing and just bring it back to final decision. Well, you know, some of us are not ready. Without knowing what the cost is going to be, I know it's going to be less than appraised value, but I don't even know what appraised value is going to be. It could be 10, it could be 15, it could be 20. You know, that's not what I want to make a motion on and decide today. I'd like to know what it's going to be before I say yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Supervisor Reyes. It's unclear of what authorization you're giving Mr. Hilland. You're asking him to determine a price that he's going to offer this
To get the appraisal on it, and then from there go on, see if and negotiate.
Yeah, look, the owner is going to tell you if the offer is something he will accept. If he will accept the offer, then bring it to us so we can actually formally make it. Is that more clear? You're to negotiate the price. Once you know what he will take within the confines of what we need to work with, you bring it to us for a final decision. Is that difficult to understand? Because I wasn't too confused. I'm getting confused now, but I wasn't confused when I started.
No, I believe I understand, you know, and again, we have I guess I would call it an approximate cost per square foot that we can base that around, knowing that number may change.
Well, but we don't know what it'll be, because it could be 9, it could be 10, it could be 11, it could be 12, it could be 5. What we know is we can't pay more than a price. Right?
Correct.
Okay, so just negotiate something, you know, acceptable to the owner, and then bring it to us and say, okay, the owner has accepted this offer.
Let's have the formal appraisal.
Is that okay? Is that understood? Is that okay with you?
Yes, I'll second that.
Motion.
So there's.
Yes.
May I please read the motion back into the record for clarification?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the first motion that I had was to allow Mr. Hillen to proceed and get more details and bring the item back to the board. And then we had an amended motion made by Supervisor Reyes, seconded by Vice Chair Lyons, to instruct the construction projects director to negotiate a price with the owner. If the owner is willing to allow the purchase at the appraised value, bring back the item to the Board of Supervisors to authorize. Is that correct?
If the second one is the final motion, yes. I think the first motion, I will
first motion
withdraw
we
it,
didn't
and
vote
it won't
on.
exist. Now, there was some concern that legal didn't think it was a clear enough motion. I hope we made it clear that what we want is him to negotiate to a point and then bring it to us for a final decision. Is that understood? I mean, it may not have to be part of the motion. I just want the motion to be understood. Is it? Is it okay? Does it meet legal muster? Okay.
So there's a motion and a second to
do what we said.
What was recommended right now by Chairman Reyes and second by Jonathan Hines. Any more discussion on it?
It's your birthday. It's as clear as mine.
It's clear as mine.
All those in favor say aye.
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 That was a painful decision, I know, Lynn.
Motion
I've
carries.
been listening.
Anybody opposes? No.
She said
So
something
thank
about
you,
Dave.
thank you,
I think
Dave.
it was good.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Moving.
I withdrew.
Yeah, I said I would do the motion, so the first motion, so you withdrew the first motion, the second one is the one.
Moving on to item number 2, County Administration Budget Director Tony Struck.
I hate to tell you this, but you got 5 minutes. That was like that. The curse of an open short meeting.
The Fortress, members of the board. I took note earlier, so for sure. I just want to give a brief update from the budget office. We did a similar presentation back for the first quarter. What I'm going to share with you today is activity for the first half of the year, basically. A couple of topics. We'll talk a little bit about inflation because it does impact our operations, general fund revenues, and expenditures. So as quickly as I can get to it. You've probably all seen that inflation for the 12 months ending January was 6.4% over January of the prior year, which was 7.5%. The high over the last year, it was back in June of 9.1% on a year-to-year basis. For food, we have 10.10%,
increase over prior year was 7%. That, so if you look at a compound number, that's about 17% increase. We had a high of 11.4% on food. This graph just shows the history by month of what inflation has been. We're over here now, January of 23, 6.4%. Last year it was 7.5%. So back where we typically had a lower amount in the past. So a compounded number of around almost 14% over the last 2 years. Things that affect the community, electricity prices, food at home prices, food away from home, shelter prices are all above the 6.4 all item percentage. The new vehicles, which still high at 5.8%, is lower than all items and has been trending down, which is good for our fleet operations. And then gasoline, a 1.5% increase over last year, which was still high, but is trending in a positive way, and that is having an impact on operations as well. What this does is looks at our historical revenues for the first 6 months of the last 4 years, and you can see that we are trending upwards in all categories: property tax revenues, state share sales taxes, county sales taxes, all increasing over prior years. A little bit busy, but just what it shows is what I compare is the budget to the actual and the percentage of the budget that we've collected, and then how much we're below budget for the entire year. And then this column over here on the benchmark is basically what, from a budget perspective, what we anticipate the revenues to be compared to the budget. So I would expect property tax revenues to be at 58%, 58.8% of collected, and we're actually exceeding that. So property tax revenues, the vehicle license tax, state shares taxes, the county sales taxes, all trending well above what we would expect at this point. It's interesting, I look back a couple years, typically on the sales tax items, we collect about 49% of our revenues the first half of the year. A couple years back, 21, we actually collected 50% in the first half, but just pointing that out. On the intergovernmental side of things, we got a refund from Altex. We overpaid. The federal government subsidized the Altex program, and they're required to refund back contributions. So we got about $1.4 million back refund. We got a similar refund the prior year as well.
I think I overpay all the time. Do I get it back?
Yeah, that's the $20,000 coming back.
Yeah, right there.
The only thing that we're falling behind on is fines and forfeitures. That's from the courts. Those have been trending down. I think Justice Court 1 or JP1 is trending above budget, but all the others are falling short of that. Interest, because of the interest rate increases, we're actually getting more on our investments, so well above our budget, and we've actually exceeded our interest on investment budget for the year through the first half of the year. From the JLBC, they had a meeting at the end of January where they updated their projections for their sales taxes. Back in October, they were anticipating that we would end the year 5.9% above prior year. They've increased that to 7%. It's been a little bit more positive than what they thought, so they've enhanced that. For next year, they're thinking about a 2.8% increase in sales taxes, and then in the economy recovering over the next 2 years to 4% and 5% on the sales tax. Another thing that they talked about, the Finance Advisory Committee showed that last year we ended up 14%, almost 14% higher on a year-to-year basis for retail and remote sales. And then right this year to date, we're down to 6.4%. So they're seeing some softening in the retail sales side of things. Contracting is still growing primarily due to inflation, I believe. These graphs, just quick, just to show you just the trend. This is how we look at it from the budget office. We try to see
if things are trending so we can project out where we're going to end up. This year's actuals are right here. This is what, and the budget where I allocate based on history. So we're well above budget for every month for this fiscal year. Vehicle license taxes, on the other hand, is kind of hard to predict. You can see how variable the second half of the year is, so it's really tough to really get a good grasp on how that's going to end up. But we are trending above budget. I think we're about 4.4% above actually prior year on vehicle license taxes. Now on the county sales tax side of things, this is the current year. We're trending above where the budget is. The budget's this other line item, so still above that. A couple years ago, in 2021, we actually had a really high volume in October, so that's the only year that we actually collected more of our sales taxes the first half of the year than the second. This slide looks at how we're doing on a year-to-year for the first 6 months for each one of the categories. Back here in 2018-19, and then here's the 2020 when the pandemic hit. We hit that large surplus towards the end of the year, higher than what we expected. And then we've actually increased our total sales taxes over the last 2 years. This is really our new baseline going forward where the percentages go. On the retail side of things, you see it increases steadily. Contracting had a good year a couple years ago. Restaurant and bars, because of inflation and the people eating out, definitely has increased more than what we thought. And then the remote sales was a new category in.
Tony, let me ask you something. A project like the one we're doing at the county, does it create taxes or is it non-taxable?
I'm not sure of the actual answer of that. My guess is that the projects that we're working on, if they're subject to the construction portion of it, we would receive money for that.
Yes. No, the contractor has to pay taxes. I mean, I don't know whether that applies to public buildings. I never really thought about that way. And this is a big project. I mean, it's going to take a couple of years to build it, so it's going to have an impact on.
There will be components, I believe, of that'll impact us, where we'll collect monies on that. On the expenditure side of things, you'll see that expenditures actually took somewhat of an increase from prior year. Prior years, we had a number of one-time expenses that we, from the YSIPTA amount was in the, this is the personnel line item up here in the supplies and services. Altex went up 600,000. We had a lot of postage because of the election. That's a couple $100,000 higher than last year. We've seen our user license fees and stuff increase. I think it's more of a timing issue where they paid the whole amount instead of the prior year. And then contract costs, we actually contracted out a lot of the election recorder ballot situation. So that's primarily the increases in the supplies and services. Our personnel expenses have went up because of the new FTEs that were approved last year. I think we've added around 17 FTEs in the general fund. We also had a 5% increase to the scale, and we had a number of market studies that impacted that. There is the way the new Oracle system accounts for that. I think there's a little bit more salaries included in that 7 days in January. So that's a part of that increase. But basically, from supplies and services side of things, we're right at where we should be, and then we're trending below on the personnel side of things, primarily to about a 13% vacancy rate in the general fund. As of last week, that's about 92 positions that are unfilled out of our 711 positions that are budgeted. The number of departments that are contributing to that, the legal side of things, we just did that increase to their pay scale to help them recruit. They're about $500,000 below budget. Actually, the courts are about $500,000 below benchmark. The attorneys are about $400,000, and then the sheriff's about $250,000 below benchmark. So a lot of those things, just trying to get vacancies filled, and then that'll
eat up some of that before the end of the years. Not very many things are really trending that much above where we expect. The fuel and oil line items, 25,000, not significant, but a little bit higher than what we'd expected. And then I mentioned the user license and system support systems, those type of things. Other purchase services kind of offsets some of this. I think it's a coding issue. And then we're still not traveling as much as we used to. And that's all I got. Hopefully that was brief enough for everyone. Any questions?
Any questions for Tony?
I don't know why I look at you.
We're talking about work, and we're talking about the under budget situation. It really isn't under budget. If you staff everybody, the full staffing, you wouldn't be under budget. And I just didn't want to give the impression to any department that they're under budget. They're underemployed. They need more employees. They need to fill those positions. If they fill those positions, you wouldn't be under budget. You're not under budget.
Certain departments, not all.
Certain departments, not all departments. The administrative department is fully staffed. But, you know, we're talking about the sheriff's department, for example, and we're saying, look, if they had every officer they want to have, every detention officer they want to have, they wouldn't be under budget. They would be fully staffed and up to budget. Just that when we budget for every position to be full. And attrition, yeah, in some ways. I mean, people retired, people who move on to, it's very difficult, especially in the law enforcement field, to be competitive in Yuma County or in Santa Cruz in this case, because we've got so many other agencies just stealing your officers. As soon as they become trained on something, they'll become more valuable for someone else. It's really difficult. It's like, I feel like we're the rabbit and the greyhound thing. You know, you're always following the rabbit. You just can't catch him. But anyway, that was not a question. It was a comment that we made.
In the sheriff's office, we just approved their incentive and that, so that'll have an impact on the rest of the year as well.
Hopefully, get to keep the good ones.
All right. Thank you, Tony. Moving on to item number 3, Public Works. To adopt resolution number 20, Yuma County Improvement District number 2017-02, Tecna Water, adopt resolution number 2023-13, authorize issuance and sale of district improvement bonds to the United States Department of Agriculture, Rural Utility Service, prescribing terms and provisions on bonds, making certain tax covenants, and authorizing acceptance of the USDA grant execution and delivery of grant agreement, and authorize the district chairman and superintendent of streets to sign all bond and funding documents for the Tecna Water infrastructure improvement project. Rachel?
Good morning, Chairman Porteous, members of the board. Rachel Stallworth, Yuma County Public Works. And we are reaching that point, an exciting point actually, when we can soon issue the notice to proceed. But before that, I'm asking for approval to accept the grant documents and everything and authorize the chairman and the superintendent of streets to sign their agreements and everything that will be put before them very soon. I don't have those yet, but we expect those within the next week. Once we've done that and we have received the approval from Rural Development, we'll establish the pre-construction meeting, and then we can issue the notice to proceed. And we are currently working on the imminent groundbreaking ceremony. We hope to do that within the next month. So all of this needs to take place in that time.
Rachel, I've used, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Rachel, I've used the term time is not on your side countless times during my time as a supervisor. I never felt it was more pertinent than now. I think we're on a cycle that isn't ending soon. I mean, I'm talking about interest rate increases. I'm talking about every time we get a notice from USDA now, it's because there's an interest rate increase. So really, I don't see the end of this cycle, this inflationary cycle, this thing. I don't think time is on our side. I'd like to make the motion to go ahead and give you the authority to proceed as expeditiously as possible and try to nail down those grants and proceed with the issuance of the bonds and get things settled so that we can begin the actual construction of this project. This has been a long-awaited project. that it's taken a long time and it's taken a lot of effort from
A
everybody.
very long time,
But
yes.
commend you, commend the supervisor that has been present at every step of the way, and simply make a motion to go ahead and proceed.
Thank you.
I'll second.
And there's a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? Rachel, I'd just like to say, you know, this, seeing all the grants and the money that will be hopefully from WIFA forgiven, that's amazing. I mean, this is just a great deal for Tacna residents.
He means he's
And,
hoped to do it in the Orange Grove area.
Exactly, yeah.
That's coming,
That
yes,
yes.
it will. And if I could just say one positive comment, talking about interest rates and all of these things while we're trying to finish this right now, but we were able to secure a 1.375% loan interest rate, and that has been confirmed. And that's the lowest rate we have ever had on any of ours.
Tell you, this is one of those matters that you hit when you're able to and as quickly as possible.
And I want to thank Rachel for all of her hard work on this. She is just.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I hate to throw a stick
Put
in the
what in
spokes,
it?
but I just want some clarity, if I could, on the motion. We need to adopt the resolution
To-
2023.
To approve, adopt resolution number 2023-13, and authorize the district chairman and superintendent of streets to sign all bonds and all bond and funding documents for the Tacna Water Improvement, Tacna Water Infrastructure Improvement Project upon presentation from Bond Council, Rural Development and Water Infrastructure Finance Authority of Arizona, all subject to legal review by Bond Council. Again?
Wonderful.
All right.
So there's a motion, any second?
Seconded.
Um,
All in favor?
Any other discussion?
Let's hear from
Any-
Supervisor Simmons.
let's
Call for the question.
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And
Aye.
Thank
Oh,
you,
yes,
Grant.
he is.
Thank you, Dan, for your work too there on the grants. Thank you. Moving on to
Better work on
planning
that.
and zoning.
Post all those important people tomorrow, Vice Chair.
Item number 1, Development Services and Zoning Division, public hearing, Yuma County 2030 Comprehensive Plan, review and adoption resolution number 2023-11, adopting the Yuma County 2030 Comprehensive Plan pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 11-805. And this would be by,
I don't know, anybody.
who's,
I know we have everybody here.
Yeah.
Everybody that means anything. We have Mr. Sellers, we have.
Thank you,
Oh,
Chairman.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
members of the board,
Go ahead.
Juan Leal Rubio, Senior Planner with Planning Zoning Division. This is the presentation of the 2030 comp plan. I'll have a brief presentation to go over the important components of this adoption, hopefully, of the comp plan. What is the intent and purpose of the comp plan? The intent of the comp plan is to accomplish coordinated, adjusted, and harmonious development of the unincorporated area of Yuma County. The purpose of the effect of the plan is primarily as an aid to the Planning and Zoning Commission and to the board to perform the duties relating mostly to land use development. ARS 11805 requires that the board adopt a comp plan and that subsequently amend or extend the adopted plan, which is why we're here today, on adoption or readoption of the plan or any part of the plan. This should be the official guide for the development of the area of the jurisdiction. The adopted comp plan is effective for up to 10 years. This draft is the result of a action taken by the board back on March of 2022 to deny the adoption of the previously draft that was presented to the board in order to allow staff to prepare a more updated plan, which is what we did. We came up with a good plan. We put this was done in-house. Again, we received direction from the board back on March of 2022. The staff did a review and a full review and a preparation of the draft plan between June 2022 through October of 2022. On October 25th, the commission opened up the public information, public participation process, and that went through October 25th through December 27th. As part of that, we went ahead and posted the draft online. We distributed copies of the draft plan throughout the different planning areas in the county. And we also had a open house meeting November 15th, 2022. We had an attendance of about maybe 15 people who provided comments. And on January 24th of this year, we actually did the P&Z Commission public hearing, at which time the Commission recommended approval of the adoption of the 2030 comp plan, and which brings us here today. For preparation of the comp plan, staff received lots of feedback and comments from the original draft that was presented back in 2021. We incorporated a lot of these comments into this new draft that was prepared. We did updating of census data. We updated, of course, annexation areas, boundaries. We included information from other agencies that have their plans in place, like YMPO, like Marine Corps Air Station. We included data from them to update our plan to ensure that we had an updated document. And we took in consideration comments from, also from Arizona State Attorney General's office, even from Yuma County Administration. We had some comments, and that we included that data in updating the draft that we present here to you here today. So the staff and the commission, we're both recommending that you approve the proposed 2030 comp plan as presented. That concludes my presentation. I'm here for any questions.
Chairman, before you open it up to the public, a couple of comments. One, I appreciate all the time and effort that went into this, and I think that it's a much better product than the one you brought the first time. It really is, and it did involve a lot of presentations to the public. I understand that the majority of the public only comes when they have a complaint, something that they didn't think of at the time. I do understand that process. So I wanted to ask you a question before we went into the public hearing, and it has to do with the joint comprehensive plan that we used to have that involved all the maybe mostly the city of Yuma and the county of Yuma, whereas we plan sort of in conjunction with the municipalities. I know you guys done a lot of that research already. I just want to make sure that at some particular point in time, we talked, once we finish this comprehensive plan that involves Yuma County, that we talked about a joint plan that involves all the municipalities and all those growth areas that essentially, at one point in time, the municipalities are expanding rapidly. They're moving into county areas that essentially we need to be planning together. In other words, the regular. I know that you move out in the county and you expect certain things to be different than the city. That's the expectation you have. The problem that I see is most people don't realize how much cities are expanding. When somebody like the Yuma Economic Development person, Julie, brings out a project and she calls in Somerton, and it's at the Purina, which is County 19 and Avenue, Extension Avenue B. I'm not aware that's already in the city of Somerton, but it could be. So she said it's in the city of Somerton, and I was thinking, well, I thought that was the county. But now I don't know where the city of Somerton is anymore, because every time you go buy something, you say, well, I mean,
Mr. Hill, you're sounding like me.
Old. I'm getting old. I'm just getting old. But once we finish approving this plan, I'd like the staff to sort of put it in their calendar that we need to start doing some of these joint meetings with the cities and find out what their plans are and where they want to go and how does that match what we're planning. Because essentially some of these projects that that they're talking about economic development projects, some of them are in the county. The generation, the biogeneration, the fuel, what's it called, the hydrogen fuel. I mean, those things are huge, and they're going to end up. I mean, we certainly don't want to plant them on the outside of a city, and then 5 years later, the city's already there. And, that happens a lot. I mean, I think that one of the reasons we're talking about biosolids is because Somerton is creeping up on that area where it matters now to people around there. It didn't 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It was too far. But now cities are getting closer. The city of San Luis is, really close now. So I just want to go back to somehow, once we finish our side of the process and the cities finish their side of the process, there should be some point where we say, okay, you got your plan, we got our plan. Where do we match? So that joint plan used to be what we guided our growth on, a joint plan. This is a county plan. I know the joint plan still exists. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. It's just that I think a lot of things have changed, and we probably need to could take a look at that again and see exactly what the boundaries are. I don't know anymore. Maybe I am sounding a little, but I don't know anymore where one town begins and the other one begins. I think the counties are squeezing. They're getting shorter and smaller, but the cities are growing. And
Maggie, let me just
say it.
The county always says on County 11, no, it's Somerton. That's not Somerton. It's County 11 over there by Morgan.
You reminded me it was my district.
It's a zip code.
Yeah,
they go by the zip code.
But we don't go by the zip code. We go by what's county in terms of physically what's county and physically. We don't go by census tracts. We don't go that way. We go by physically geographically where the county is and the cities are. At this particular time, I'm not even sure where the cities are in terms of geography. They keep annexing sections. City of Yuma keeps annexing. I think the college is probably right around the city of Yuma's boundaries now. They're moving really closer to the foothills. I don't know what much space is in between that. I don't know how much space is between the city of Somerton and the county. But what I do know is whatever we do at the county, eventually cities are going to have to deal with. Whatever we approve now, subdivisions that we approve now based on regulations the county have, when the city wants to annex, they have a problem if it doesn't meet their regulations. So joint planning, I think, is probably our next level task, or the TDS next level task. I'm sorry, Maggie.
Maggie, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to address your comments. The county staff does meet with our counterparts from the incorporated jurisdictions. Lately we've been meeting annually. And we do go over proposed projects, major amendments, major projects going on both in the county and in the cities. So communication does take place on a regular basis.
Do we still have a joint plan?
Mr. Chairman, no, the joint land use plan for the county is no longer in effect. What happened is the joint land use plan only encompassed a portion of the county. It wasn't the entire county. So all the land use designations that were established in the joint land use plan were incorporated into the areas that applied to the county. So those land use designations are still in place. Additionally, staff for every rezoning, minor amendment, major amendment, any rezoning case that requires a public hearing, we do send a request for comments to all of the incorporated jurisdictions in case the intended use or the proposed use is in conflict with any of their plans.
Well, I like that. I like the concept. I used to believe, and I do still believe, that having a joint use plan with the city of Yuma was the best way to avoid conflicts, because you had it in a plan. You didn't have to check with staff in the city or check with staff in the county. You look at the plan and you knew supposedly where this development was supposed to happen and how it was supposed to happen. I believe that it's a better tool for people outside the staff than it is for people inside staff. I think inside staff communicates with each other. But if somebody wants to know what the plans are for the city and the county in a specific area that is, let's say, adjacent to the county, they probably don't have a joint plan that says, okay, well, the city thinks this is what's going to happen, the county thinks this is what's going to happen, this is what actually happened. I'm just suggesting that maybe not so much for internal consumption, But for external consumption, for people who develop to know what's going to happen, where it's going to happen, where the city expects things to happen, where the county expects things to develop. I mean, we're having a decent hearing next month on an issue out in the foothills.
Yeah.
I mean, that foothills to me is just getting really close to the city of Yuma, and some of the stuff that's happening in there is pretty urban now. And I think people don't really see this encroachment that's happening, this development that's already happened. It's already made it an urban area. And people just not comprehending that there may not have, well, this is a discussion for the next meeting. Thank you very much for the explanation.
I was
The
looking
city
for
is
Bill to
up
cut you
to,
off.
the city is up to 10E in some places
Oh, no.
out there.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
All right. Yes.
Also, it's important to note that any proposal that comes in that involves a property in a county island or in a county area of unincorporated area of Yuma County, that will be either connecting to the city infrastructure or, again, in a county island, it follows the city of Yuma general plan. So anytime a proposal comes in, we coordinate with the city of Yuma to ensure that the city of Yuma general plan is followed. And any amendments to the plan, even though in an unincorporated Yuma County, would go through the city of Yuma to ensure that they meet the city's general plan before development occurs, even though it's in Yuma County. That is a state requirement. Yeah, we follow that. And also important to note that we have, like Maggie mentioned, we do meet with our counterparts at the different municipalities. A recent meeting that was held last year with the city of Yuma, it was noted that, and this topic came up as far as a joint land use plan. As you can recall, Mr. Chairman Reyes, back in 2009, 2010, the board actually voted to remove the joint land use process because it became a little confusing.
Oh.
But in current discussions, it has come up, and we see the importance. The city of Yuma actually did mention that they would like to see a joint land use plan in effect, and that's something that staff is looking into and possibly maybe coming back with something at a later date.
Right. I just want to, I got an 11 o'clock appointment, and I was hoping this was a quick meeting, but this is a curse. Every time you think a meeting is going to take like little time, this happens. But I wanted to make sure that my comments were taken in the context that I made it. In the context that I made them is you staff work with each other pretty well. You notice each other, you know the statutes, you know what to do. But people outside, people who want to come to the county and develop, may need to have like a tool to actually see what before they come what to expect. I mean, we were having conversations about the city of Yuma being on 10th, somewhere on 10th E or something. What we're saying is, for example, if the city of Yuma is planning a fire station or is planning, if the city is planning to have some services for like sewer services and stuff like that, and their plan includes, further development along, it'd be nice to be able to see it in a plan that doesn't require that you contact the county or you contact the city, that you could see it. That to me was a joint land use plan purpose. The purpose obviously was to get both the city and the county together so they could plan jointly. But it was also to provide developers and other people a tool to see, just like we provide right now with the county. I get it, Maggie, that you were saying, okay, well, this is a very comprehensive one. It's the whole county. The other one was just the city of Yuma and the county of Yuma. I get that, but I still say that people outside us, people who don't do this, people who don't go to meetings, people, probably need to see it in a different method, a different way, which is to me, a joint land use plan was always a tool that I felt we were pretty well known for it, actually. Maybe the elected political leaders don't talk a lot between each other.
I got the mayor's phone number.
Yeah, I know. Maybe what we need is just simply to have a document that people can look at and not have to call the chairman of the board or the mayor of Yuma and get his numbers.
I think he exceeded his 3 minutes.
I think I exceeded my 3 minutes. And
it would have been a short meeting.
It would have been a short meeting if you hadn't shown up. Happy birthday.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll see you. I voted in favor, okay? Favor of the plan, but I don't have enough time to wait for the vote. Rubio, you got caught up in the situation.
Well, that was Tony's fault.
All right. Well,
I move that we
now that he's
approve
gone
the
and
joint use
we'll
plan.
continue
I mean, the comprehensive
after an
plan.
hour of talk
Is
from Tony.
is-
Yeah.
Chairman, yeah, I believe Supervisor Pancrazy is making a comment.
Lynn?
You're hard to hear.
I move that.
Oh,
we
hold on,
approve
Lynn.
the
Let me open it up to the public.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna open it up to the public, and I think I have two speakers for that item. I don't know which one was here first, but Gene, I'll go ahead with.
And Mr. Chairman, while Gene is approaching the podium, I was just reminded that this item requires a supermajority.
Okay.
Good morning. I think it's still morning anyway. Gene Dalby, 1183 West 37th Street. Thank you for allowing me to come before you for a moment about this comprehensive plan. Your staff has done a fabulous job, I think. They've worked hard at it and accumulated a lot of information. I'm pleased to note that this is one plan that some portions of it have already been accomplished. And
Go ahead, Gene. Sorry for the distraction.
that's okay. And I think that we're heading in the right direction. I think that it's very important to recognize that, yes, bicycling does play a part. And you have a whole page now and a map section that shows bicycling. I think it's important to realize on the non-motorized transportation portion, the things that are said in that paragraph essentially filter throughout every aspect of the whole comprehensive plan. And I think that's the only paragraph, I could be wrong, I did not read the 420 pages of this document. I'm very sensitive to the bicycling side, as you can appreciate. But I think in that paragraph alone, it really says the kind of things that are important in terms of the quality of life, the value of life, and all the things that go with what we're trying to do in terms of making our environment exceptionally well for the future of our population. So anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate what's done, and God bless you guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Gene, and thank you for all your comments, because obviously this was input from you and the biking community when this was a step being made. So thank you.
I think you'll find out that more lately it's been less me and more of other people in the community.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. I also have Jay Majordick, or I'm gonna butcher your last name. I apologize there, but
It's Jay Meyerdirk.
Meyerdirk. Okay.
And you have two documents that I have submitted. The first are my personal comments, and those were provided to the county clerk yesterday. Since then, I've been in discussions with the Yuma Audubon Society, and we are jointly submitting comments. So there is some slight difference between the two. I'll be speaking today as a member of the Audubon Society. The Yuma Audubon Society, my name is Jay Meyerdirk. I'm at 12540 South Colina Avenue in District 3. But we have members of the Audubon District throughout the county and in all districts. The Yuma Audubon is an all-volunteer, 130-member nonprofit organization that has been in Yuma for 47 years. We are a chapter of the National Audubon Society. We have reviewed the Planning Commission's draft of the Yuma County Comprehensive Plan. We support the overall YCC as its goals and most of its policies and actions as presented. Our review was primarily on those sections dealing with the environment, public participation, open space and recreation, and parks. We have some major and minor concerns and strongly feel that these should be addressed prior to the Board of Supervisors giving their vote of approval. The Yuma Audubon Society also endorses the preamble to the 2020 draft that was presented to you, but appears to be vacant now. We find that there was no widespread public participation in the development of the plan. The posting of the board's agenda was our first knowledge of the plan since early in 2021. The Colorado River is the greatest asset that Yuma County possesses. We need to do everything possible to protect and enhance this resource. We are well underway to losing the Colorado River. It's time to address global warming. The plan does not. A major component of the Yuma County community are snowbirds or winter visitors. The analysis of this phenomena is not included anywhere in the plan, but the impacts are significant in every element of the plan. The open space policies work well to protect the rights of property owners and their neighbors, but do not work as well for the improvement of the resource itself. A new open space policy action should be added that states Yuma County will encourage and assist in the designation of open space areas within Yuma County. For all the advocacy, analysis, promoting, reviews, policies, and actions regarding open space in this and prior comprehensive plans, the results have been nil. There should be a new parks policy that the providing of parks and recreation facilities becomes a priority. Light motorized and non-motorized activities need to be included in the recreation and transportation elements. There are no policies, priorities, or actions for trails. The YCCP does not address a major safety issue in the county and the nation, that is school and community mass shootings. How many more children and people must die in Yuma County or Arizona or the United States before politics is put aside and the issue is addressed? The plan does not address immigration and international asylum, two activities that place Yuma County in the international spotlight and very frequently in the national news. It is long past time to do some action along those lines. Cultural and historic resources need to be preserved. They are not addressed in the plan. And the pandemic, such as the most recent COVID experience, needs action and addressing within the plan. Thank you. I'd be glad to answer any comments or.
Any comments? No. Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public? I'll go ahead
Chairman, I'll
and,
make a motion that we approve the plan as presented. The proposed 2030 comprehensive plan as presented.
I'll turn it back into
Okay.
the board and, okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed 2030 comprehensive plan as presented.
There's a motion. Oh.
I'm just gonna let her second if she wanted.
Lynn?
Lynn?
Thought she was gonna make the motion.
I'm here, I'm here.
Do you want to second it?
We need to adopt by resolution.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that we approve resolution number 2023-11, adopting the Yuma County 2030 comprehensive plan pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes 11-805.
Now, can we comment on it before we vote?
Yeah, hold on, Lynn. So you second that?
I did.
Okay. I'll open it up for comments. Go ahead, Lynn.
Okay. I'd like to see more open spaces, and I'd also like to see more trails. Up in Maricopa County, you will find that every subdivision that was developed there, they also left open spaces, and they left spaces for trails and recreation, and even in the unincorporated areas. And I think that it would be wise for Yuma to do the same thing. So I just want to make that comment. And we need to have more schools out in the East Valley. So those are my comments. And I know they're not in the comprehensive plan, but I want them on the book. So
All right.
okay.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yes.
It's funny, Lynn, because I've got a meeting with Ian afterwards, our monthly meeting, and some of these things are on my list to talk to him about. So
Okay. If I want Yuma to be a desirable place for everybody to come live. And if you look at the open spaces up in Maricopa County, up in the northern part of it and other areas, that you'll find that it's a more desirable place because of the fact that they left open spaces for people to recreate. So anyway.
All right, thank you,
Okay.
Lynn. And this is just a question, maybe Maggie. This we can still amend or add throughout.
Chairman,
Yes.
right now you have you could actually adopt as presented. You could propose to adopt certain elements of the plan, or you could direct staff to take it back to the commission for any revisions that you want to see.
No, but I mean, do throughout as after.
Yes.
Let's say we can amend the plan. So,
Yeah, there is
okay.
a minor amendment process that deals with, changes to the comp plan throughout the year.
Okay.
Yep.
That works. And
That works.
And I just want to say, we back in, was it 21? March 22 of 21 or 20?
Yes, March 2021.
That we sent it back, and I think there was plenty of time. I know not everybody looks at it or knows about it. Maybe we can find out how we, when there's going to be an amendment or we're asking more questions, that if we can announce it better or promote it better, that something's coming up so that the whole county knows about it. All right. So there's a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2023 -11. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or roll call?
Do you need a roll call?
Okay, Supervisor Lyons,
Aye.
Supervisor Pancrazzi,
Aye.
Supervisor Simmons,
Aye.
Chairman Porches.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Desiree. And just, those, to Mr. J, those comments were taken and we'll definitely keep them. Thank you. Moving on to legislative issues. Alejandro. I guess what happened? Show up late and everybody leaves early?
I'm sticking with you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'll be presenting the legislative update for today, for this meeting. As you probably heard, Governor Hobbs officially vetoed the legislative majority's fiscal year 24 budget on February 16. February 17 was the last day for bills to be heard in committees and in their chamber of origin. Both appropriations committees have packed agendas this week, with the House Appropriations Committee considering a whopping 46 bills and the Senate Appropriations Committee 22 bills. We expect to see packed floor calendars this week as members try to get their bills over to the other chamber for consideration. Moving on with the state, I'd like to inform the board that Representative Tim Dunn sponsored HB 2669, solid waste sludge water quality, in an effort to support Yuma County's state legislative proposal and limit or ban the out-of-state biosolids coming into our county. I would like to thank Supervisor Pancrazzi and Director Craig Sellers for attending the hearing on the House Natural Resources, Energy, and Water Committee on February 14th. I left a copy of the latest bill. I'm working with the CSA, with a copy on your desk, of the latest draft that I'm working with the CSA to get to the Rules Committee next week. Once it moves out of the Rules Committee, it will go to the floor, Committee of the Whole, onto the floor, and for a final vote on the House to make its way to the Senate. So just to give you an idea of what this bill says, related to our biosolid issue, it's a person, and I quote, "A person may not submit a request for registration to land apply and may not land apply a substance that contains biosolids, sewage, sludge, or septic within 3 miles of an area containing a population density equal to or greater than 128 persons per square mile, or within 1 mile of a crop produced for human consumption or any property zoned residential." Pathogen reduction requirements for biosolids are now included. A biosolid combined with a solid waste shall be regulated as a solid waste. Now, this bill was drafted in consultation with legal counsel of the House, with ADQ and CSA and our Development Services Department. Moving on to federal issues. 22 of Arizona's county supervisors, including Yuma County Chairman Porches and Supervisor Reyes, traveled to Washington, D.C. from February 10th to the 15th to represent Arizona at the National Association of Counties Legislative Conference. Well, at the conference, Yuma County supervisors were able to hear from President Joe Biden, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Transportation, the Secretary of Agriculture, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, among other cabinet members. Yuma County supervisors also participated in a number of policy development committees, made contacts via the Federal Agency Expo, and participated in a number of policy summits on major community issues. Additionally, Chairman Porches and Supervisor Rios met one-on-one with Senators Sinema and Kelly, as well as congressional staff from the offices of Congressman Grijalva, Stanton, Ciscomani, to discuss the county's federal legislative priorities. I'm already in communication with Congress members Lesko and Gallego's offices to schedule video conference meetings and continue advocating for our federal priorities with them as well. The House, as you know, the House Judiciary Committee will hold a hearing tomorrow, Thursday, February the 23rd at 2 p.m. at Yuma City Hall. The hearing will examine the Department of Homeland Security's operations at the southwest border and allow the committee to hear testimony about the effects of illegal immigration on Yuma County. Chairman Jim Jordan, Congressman Jim Jordan, will be joined by 15 Republican committee members and Supervisor Vice Chairman Jonathan Lyons, Sheriff, Yuma County Sheriff, will be there as witnesses for the hearing. On Friday the 17th, Governor Hobbs made her first trip across the border to meet with Mexican President Lopez Obrador and Sonora's Governor Durazo to discuss border infrastructure projects along Arizona's border with Mexico. That will be my update for today, Mr. Chairman. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Alejandro. Moving on to events, and calendar events and current events. Since Lynn, you got any reports?
Yes, I attended. I testified in the committee for the biosolids bill. I attended the CSA meeting on Thursday and listened to the director of Department of Water Resources and wasn't too excited about what he had to say about. He said that the rural communities, I'm paraphrasing, the rural communities needed to get with Maricopa County or the Colorado River they would see cuts, 1 million tiny cuts or whatever, something to that effect. Jonathan, you were listening. What can you paraphrase it better than I do? Anyway, so I was at those two meetings. I met with Diana Gomez at the health department to see how what she plans on doing with her staff with the retirement of Maria, and then I went to the widening of 18th Street and Avenue C, which was interesting. They're going to put a stoplight there to help with traffic for Cibola. I went to Cibola and Yuma's FFA barbecues. Let's see, I'm looking. What else did I do? I'm looking. Hold on, guys. I'm still looking at my calendar. And that's all I can see right now. So, okay, that's it.
Thank you, Lynn.
Uh-huh.
And thank you for that, going to that hearing and speaking.
Oh, hey, if we had a 10-0 vote, which was quite impressive considering some of the folks that were in the part of the committee. So yes, and I went to my WACOG meeting too as well. So yes.
Thank
So
you.
anyway,
Anyway, just to touch a
Now
little
I'm
bit
gonna
on
go
what
on
Lynn was
mute.
saying with the CSA, or the water commissioner, they're expecting rural Arizona. To me, it sounded like to take the brunt of the cuts and keep the water flowing to the suburban areas, which is just not going to work. That, and California is expecting us to take the brunt of the cuts as well, mainly the state of Arizona. And it's just, it's sad people don't realize what they're doing. So, but anyway, again, I sat in on the CSA board meeting, attended the Mohawk Irrigation and Drainage District board meeting. Again, big topic was the water at their meeting. Walton Town Council attended the groundbreaking at the multi-purpose complex out in the foothills. Met with staff over some issues in my district. Attended the Hank Days Parade, and I'd like to thank the Rotary, Foothills Rotary. They made me Grand Marshal for the parade, so that was an honor.
That's exciting. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. And then had a community meeting out in the foothills as well. Packed house for that. Zoning issues in that area are a very hot topic. Had attended a Mesa del Sol homeowners meeting, their annual meeting that they hold yearly, and numerous phone calls and meetings reference to zoning issues in the foothills. That's all I got.
Thank you. Well, I attended the NACO conference last week, and it was Alejandro and I had good meetings with Senator Kelly and Senator Sinema. That was one-on-one meetings with them, and they went pretty good. We talked about the border issues and what the county also faces with the SCAP and the PILT program. So they know what the situation is, and hopefully something starts moving. So that's about it. Ian, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things. Attended the Southwest Arizona Town Hall Board of Directors meeting. We had our quarterly admin staff meeting, which is always good to have and hear what's on our staff's minds and go over some training opportunities. I updated the Chamber Board of Directors yesterday on some county initiatives, and there's been multiple budget review team meetings in preparation for next Tuesday's budget work session at 9 a.m. at the main library. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.